And we learned that Zambia is somewhat friendly, and Saar had announced that Israel shortly would be opening or reopening its embassy in Zambia. So that happened this week, and we'll start with that. Doesn't mean that Zambia is going to be like Javier Milei in Argentina or Viktor Orban in Hungary, but we had no relations with them, and now we, in the middle of all the other garbage, we're actually opening up an embassy there. So that's good stuff. There were a number of incidents the last few weeks of anti-Semitism around the world. We're going to pick up some of those. And of course, Israel's big developments, which we were talking about last week, as they unfolded last week, the two big developments is that Israel's marching into Gaza City. And this is going to be it. Either it's going to end up in a tremendous success or it's going to end up in a tremendous failure. If it's a failure, Israel will be able to look back and say that over the 2-year period since October 7, Israel took down Hezbollah and 1,500 precision missiles and killed the entire leadership of Hezbollah and the entire Radwan force and neutralized Hezbollah. Israel will be able to say that Syria had been a proxy for Iran to the degree that Syria simply shipped all their weapons for Lebanon into Syria, and then there was a ground route into Lebanon. And Israel brought that to an end. Bashar Assad was driven out of Syria. Excuse me. Bashar Assad was driven out of Syria, and ISIS has come in. We're going to have to see how that plays out. But Iran no longer has a proxy by which to get stuff into Lebanon. So if Israel fails with Gaza City, she can look at that too, as having happened in the past 2 years. And having flattened at least 75% of Gaza. And having killed everybody, the whole who's who of Gaza, Hamas. Sinwar this and his brother, Mohammed Deif and Hania, they killed everybody except for one guy, Mishal. He's still in Qatar. But everybody else has been killed. So Israel's accomplished an enormous amount. They've destroyed so much tunnelage, if there's such a word. How many miles and miles and miles? And then they took out the Iranian nuclear reactors. They went into the 3 sites. Finally, the big one that required American support. And by the grace of God, Trump is the president rather than Biden or any of the others. So that miraculously enabled us to see so much done. What will become of Gaza City will be the last part. Now, I was thinking about it, that if Israel has taken over 75% of Gaza in a war that so far has run for approximately 22 months, I mean, that's like 3.5% a month. Not that they did it that way on purpose, but that's what seems to be the thing. It's about 3.5% a month. There's 25% to go. So it seems like the war only has 7 to 8 months maximum left. Maybe less, maybe a month. Probably not a month, probably not 8 months. But it seems that at the rate Israel's gone, it's going to end in 8 months one way or another. Because it's going to be 100% to Gaza, one way or another. Now, there's been enormous damage to Israel's reputation, and that damage is amplified so much by 2 or 3 basic factors. Number one, the world's media primarily is in the hands of left-wing so-called journalists and editors, and they've got an agenda. They meet together. That's how it works. If you ever saw the movie The Year of Living Dangerously, it takes place somewhere else. All the journalists overseas in a country, they all know each other. You're just one of a very few Americans in such a country, and it's a tough country to be in, whichever one. And they all get together every day. They meet in the bar over drinks. They just get together to unwind after a day's work. It could be Zambia. It could be Gaza. And so they sit down, what are you writing tomorrow? And everybody hearkens their ear to the guy from the New York Times, sort of like the old E.F. Hutton commercials. And E.F. Hutton says, and the New York Times, everybody else is, let's say, going to write a story about XYZ. And the New York Times guy says, well, we're going with a story about GHI. Everyone else backs up, asks him, what's GHI? What's going on with GHI? He tells them, and everybody drops their XYZ story and follows the GHI story. That's how it works. Because the editor in America, in St. Louis, Chicago, calls up his or her reporter in Zambia or Gaza the next day and says, why the F are you writing about XYZ when the New York Times is following GHI? And if you want to have good status at your job and longevity, instead of arguing, because honestly, XYZ is a much more important story. They don't want to hear that. They want to know that we're covering what the New York Times is covering. We don't want to be left behind. For the same reason that all the Supreme Court justice nominations, except for Amy Coney Barrett, come out of Harvard and Yale. So Harvard's going to lose some elan. It's going down this year from number 1 or 2 to number 7. That's going to be a big blow. But historically, they always name someone from Harvard and Yale for the last 30, 50 years. Because that way, you're safe. As a president, as whatever it's, well, he or she went to Harvard or Yale. So Ketanji Jackson Brown, who's useless and idiot, not really a smart person, Sonia Sotomayor, these are not smart people. And it's another day and another time to talk about how they ever got into such a law school. And we know how. These are not smart people. In a country that has so many brilliant people, and a lot of idiots too, but there's plenty of smart people. But if you're a brilliant person who came out of, I don't know, Loyola Law School, just Emory Law School, you're just not going to get it. They're not going to give it to you. So that's how it works. And it's important to understand it. Well, we start off with Zambia today, and we go on. The two big pieces of news. Number one, as I started saying, Israel's made its decision, and it gets more and more condemnations for it. But going into the Gaza City, they've called up hundreds of thousands of reserves. And a reserve means like a regular person. I mean, soldiers are too, but reserves are not in the army anymore. They did their army time to go home. For those of us that don't quite know what that means, miluim, basically, you did your time like in America. We thank you for your service. You go home. Only in Israel, you come back again the following year, and year after year after year, and it never ends. Unlike in America, let's say, America, you did your time, and that's it. That, by the way, creates a much more patriotic society. We don't realize all the things that one does when one lives in Israel. When someone American goes to Israel and goes to a person, an Israeli, and says, I donated money to the UJA or the this or the that, the Israeli person really is thinking, thank you very much. I spent 3 months. What did that cost you? 1,000, 10,000, 20,000? I spent 3 months in the army at age 40, and I lost 3 months of income, pretty much, except for the salary they pay miluim. But it cost me, forget about everything else. It cost me money for 3 months to be in the army or in Gaza. And even if not Gaza, in some service, I give more money than your donation. But, they don't say it. Some do. Most don't. And so it's important to understand they're calling up hundreds of thousands. This is the big blitz. And whatever happens, happens. I just saw Netanyahu on an interview, and they were saying, the same things they said 2 years ago. That this is going to be different, right? Because there's going to be snipers in the windows, and it's compressed territory. And Netanyahu said they've been saying that for 2 years. We've been in other Arab so-called refugee camps. You ask yourself, how if Gaza really is Palestinian homeland, and first of all, there's no such thing as Palestine. Second of all, there's no such thing as Palestinians. But if there were such a thing as Palestinian citizens, and if Gaza is part of Palestine, so then how could Palestinians be living in refugee camps in Gaza? They're living in their homeland, right? Aren't they living in their homeland? That's what they say. So how could it be a refugee camp? The refugee camp would be when a Gazan lives in Brooklyn, in Chicago, in Paris, in anywhere else. Certainly in Lebanon and Iraq, Iran, etc. But if Gaza and Judea, Samaria, so-called West Bank, are their home, it's screwy that all the refugee camps, they sit there with refugees. You're living in your home. The Jews who left Syria, Lebanon, and so on and so forth, Morocco, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, and moved to Israel, don't live in a refugee camp. They went back home. So that's number one. Big story. Going into Gaza City, and this is it. Either they finish off Gaza City with a plan being to get all the civilians out. I'm not calling them innocent civilians, but the plan is to get them all out and then to just destroy everything left in Gaza City. And it's going to look, I mean, for me, it's not going to look messy at all. It's going to be like, thank God. But it's going to be bad for international media because there's going to be destruction upon destruction. Because if there isn't, the war's never going to end. And the other big news is that this is last Sunday, so we only got a little in, get a little more today, that Israel's going to build an E1. E, like egg, 1, the number. So there are different regions and zones that have been created between Israel and the Arab part of Judea, Samaria. And in certain regions, out of the Oslo Accords and other things, Israel's allowed to build, and in other sections, the Arabs have control. E1 is an area that Israel has never built. It is allowed to build. And they've announced for the last 30 years a new project. Israel announced today a brand new project to bring in 1,000 homes in E1. And they chicken out. Every single time, last 30 years, they've announced that they're going to build an E1. Whoever the president is, it could be one Bush or another Bush, I don't know, or it could be Clinton, or it could be Obama. And then they send their secretaries of state, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, you name them. And they start pressing Israel, don't you dare build an E1. Don't you dare, because if you build an E1, I'll show you. And they've announced they're going to build an E1. Well, boy, is their world response to that. So let's look at E1. Let's start our program more formally. Thank you all for being here. And it's wonderful to see everybody. Let's see how we're going to do this. We're going to do this way. All right. First, I want to just show you what is E1. Okay. This is E1. Let's see. Here we go. This is Israel, the Jewish. It's all Jewish, but this is what everyone knows is Jewish, of Jerusalem, let's say. Neve Yaakov. Let's see, can I make it bigger? Of course I can, but how much will I lose? Okay, not too bad. I will stop it up. Neve Yaakov. Oh, okay. Pisgat Ze'ev. These are suburbs of Yerushalayim. French Hill is not as much a suburb. It is Pisgat Ze'ev and Neve Yaakov regarded as suburbs. French Hill is regarded as a very desirable part of Jerusalem. Silwan is an Arab section of Jerusalem. Abu Dis, Arab section. Okay. Shuafat, Arab section of Jerusalem. And then you go more east, and you have the Arab, so-called Arab Authority. They want to call it Palestine Authority. I'll call it Arab Authority. And it's got places like Hizmi. I guess they're into pronouns. I'll let that settle. And Anada and Abu Dis, etc. Now, Ma'aleh Adumim is a gigantic suburb of Yerushalayim. Ma'aleh Adumim is the big one. If it's a name you're not experienced with, really important to learn. Ma'aleh Adumim. 36,000 Jews live in Ma'aleh Adumim. Now, the myth of a Palestine state, and there's no such thing as Palestine, entails creating a country that's going to run from Samaria up north, the northern part of the so-called West Bank, down Judea. And this green stuff is Arab settlement. By building E1, and they've announced 3,401 apartments and condominium, you're going to be connecting Jerusalem to Ma'aleh Adumim, creating, essentially cutting Judea Samaria in half. Already there was never going to be a Palestine state. No such thing as Palestine. It never was going to happen. It never will happen. Even if there would not be construction anymore, there are 850,000 Jews living in Judea, Samaria, and they are not going anywhere. There are 350,000 in the eastern part of Jerusalem and 500,000 in the rest of Judea and Samaria. They're not going anywhere. Israel had its hands full in 2005, 20 years ago, trying to uproot 8,500 Jews from Gush Katif in Gaza. That's the famous, infamous Ariel Sharon disengagement, Hitnatkut. And that was 8,500. It took years. It did not take years to get the Jews out. It took years to resettle 8,500 Jews, to find places for them to live that were proper and adequate, put their kids in schools, set up very seriously therapy, psychiatrists and psychologists all over the country. They all needed psychological therapy. They were living in beautiful homes, their life dreams, and they were suddenly expelled. Now, instead of 8,500, they're going to move 100 times that amount, 850,000. It's just never going to happen. Never going to happen. Lots of members of the Knesset live in Judea, Samaria. They're not giving their homes. It's never going to happen. It would be like Social Security closing down in America. You always read the articles about how we're 10 years from the collapse of Social Security, 5 years, 6 minutes. It's never going to happen, because whichever party kills Social Security would be dead for the rest of its political. They'd need to form a replacement party, get Elon Musk to create a new party, because that party's over. So the same way that Social Security is not going to go down, neither is Judea Samaria. But this is yet a further nail in the coffin, because it literally divides Judea Samaria. Here they were supposed to have one country, they thought in their dreams, and it's broken up in half. Connecting this way, the whole 36,000 become part of. It seemed like there was a channel to go through that bypassed the 36,000. This way, the 36,000 extend right into Jerusalem. One more picture, another view. So let's look at it again, and then we'll go to everything else. So you got Ramallah. That's Arabs from the word Allah. And here's some Jews: Neve Yaakov, Pisgat Zev, French Hill, Ramat, Shlomo, etc. Old city of Jerusalem. And there's Ma'aleh Adumim, and the so-called blah, 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 blah. So you have that, and there's the Hizmi, and there's the Anada, and all the same places, Abu this. And you could see it from that other angle. Here's Ma'aleh Adumim, and there was this big gap over here. And this closes the gap. So they're all going crazy, and tough luck. But first, a podcast. 2-minute podcast.
Which has over 1.5 million YouTube subscribers alone, has gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Take a look.
Like, the Jews don't want to take accountability.
Oh,
They don't.
That's
yes.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay.
That's why, like, there was up to something, so the Germans wanted to take them out.
Like, payback.
It had to be something. Like, Germans wanted to take them out, all of them out.
They started it.
So get somebody
Here we go.
like, yeah, talk
about them. The Holocaust was the only way he can take out a huge population, like a huge amount of Jews all in one setting. But I already know what's going on. Like, I'm not dumb. Like, I know, like, the Jews did something. That's why they sent up here. They're trying to take back, like, they're trying to take back and get repercussions, especially from America, like, from Americans. So they're taking over the government and stuff like that.
I'm telling you, how do we take them down?
How do we take them down?
Yeah.
I mean, I had to say it.
My bad, y'all.
My bad. Hitler, he had the plan, but his plan was just too, like, very, like, gruesome, if we can say it.
Listen,
He said,
he had to do what he had to do.
But he had to do it.
he was like,
Listen, he was trying to save the world.
I agree.
It didn't work out. He did. Listen, he just didn't.
I mean, Jews are the reason why the healthcare system and everything around us in the government is collapsing, because they're sitting up here stealing away from the American people.
Activist Tal Oren joins us now.
Okay, so what we have out of that one is a peek at what some idiots do believe. You know, we could call them idiots, but they exist. Obviously, like the woman who said she's not dumb. She was dumb to think that she's not dumb. But these people actually could talk like that. And what we control. And we had it coming. So that is after how many tens of millions of dollars have been spent on Holocaust museums. Because I've always been against them. What? Rabbi, you're against Holocaust? What? How, apple pie? The flag. I've always been against it. I've always said, if Jewish communities are raising millions and millions of dollars, there is one priority. And by the way, not Israel either. And that's a big priority. Jewish education. Authentic Judaic education. Not pumping it into reformed temples for Jewish art and crafts and Jewish songs. You see what comes out of those places. But Jewish education like what I got, where I was introduced to the Bible, Chumash, and the commentators, Rashi, and a little bit later on, they introduced me to Mishnah and Gemara, the Talmud. And not everybody becomes a rabbi from that. 99% don't. They become lawyers, doctors, checkout people, I don't know. But you're changed as a person, and you're rich and deep in Judaism, and you support Israel. You don't care if you're not informed politically, doesn't matter. If you've had a proper Jewish education, almost, I would say 98% or more, support Israel. And when you have bad stuff in the news, and they don't even know what the answer is, it's in their bones, it's in their blood, they support Israel. Instead, the fools do not send their children for Jewish education, do not support institutions of Jewish education, and instead they build Holocaust museums. That's what's going to stop anti-Semitism. When people see what happened to us, no, it doesn't. And I've written it. You could Google Dove Fischer Holocaust Museum. There's at least 3 articles out there. American Spectator, Newsweek, and I had a third one in New York Post, I think. And here we are a generation later, and had to wait 20, 25 years to see whether I was right. And unfortunately, I was right. Everybody said you're crazy. I mean, how you could be against the Holocaust? What we did was we taught people who are too stupid to individuate. We spent our money to teach them the word genocide, starvation. They're too stupid from one day at the museum to be able to analyze the difference of genocide with what's going on in Gaza. We taught them genocide. And the next thing you know, hey, Joe Biden, you can't hide. You're committing genocide. Unbelievable. Worst enemies, our own people. Bernie Sanders, just go on and on. All right, let's clean the palate. This also happened last week. It's really got nothing to do with anything, but it's only 29 seconds. AOL announced that dial-up is finally coming to an end. And we'll just clean our palate. A memory from a nicer time. Okay, here we go.
1, 2, 3. No, we are taking it down. 1, 2, 3.
Be careful. Now we put a little, it's a juice.
We believe there are immense opportunities for cooperation in areas that are critical to our shared goals and ideals. In particular, we see potential for enhanced collaboration in sectors such as trade and investment, agriculture, science and technology, health and climate change, and environmental sustainability, but also importantly, the cultural aspect of deepening the friendship between our two peoples.
And we are a resilient nation, overcoming the many, many challenges we face. We want to share our successes and capabilities with our friends. And Zambia is a friend, and I believe in Zambia's future. And frankly, we want to be a part of it.
For those of you who know me, you know that I've been here around for the last 3.5 years as a non-resident ambassador, doing it from our homeland, from the Holy Land, from Jerusalem, our internal capital in Israel. And I was doing it really with all my heart, praying, and sometimes prayers come through, praying that a minister will come and will decide to open an embassy in Africa, and specifically in Zambia.
Mazel tov.
The smiles and the excitement doesn't lie. All of these people just touched down very early in the morning. We have new Olim that are choosing to come here, come rain, come shine, come war, come no war. We have 225 people that are on this flight, which took off from Kennedy Airport. There are folks from the U.S., from Toronto, as many as 45 families, 125 children. Also, we've got some doctors and other medical professionals. So we have been able to see here just the excitement and the dedication of these families. Many of them began the process before October 7th. They wanted to come here even sooner, obviously, for many reasons. That was impossible, as this is actually the first Nefesh B'Nefesh chartered flight since the October 7th massacre, but they are expecting many more. In fact, just some numbers. Since October 7th, there have been 7,000 new immigrants that have come here. Also, since Nefesh B'Nefesh began in 2002, there have been 90,000 Olim Chadashim that have come here through the Nefesh B'Nefesh organization to really enter into society. Many different communities they're moving to. I spoke to some families with children that are incredible athletes that are going to contribute a lot to the sports community here, as well as many professionals that have left their careers behind to be able to offer their skills and expertise in the workforce here. Take a listen to some of the newcomers who I spoke to as they got off the plane after an overnight flight.
I wanted to make Aliyah my whole life. This is where the Jewish people belong. Am Yisrael belongs in Eretz Yisrael, and this is a dream come true.
It was definitely solidified more after October 7th, but we saw our family come and make Aliyah, and we saw family life here. We started thinking, okay, maybe we could do it too. And then after October 7th, some other of our fears dissipated, like the army and things like that, which sounds kind of like counterintuitive, but it just, you could see the sense of pride and purpose that these soldiers have, and we were like, how can we not lean into that and let our kids grow up with those values?
You know what, it really started after COVID, and it felt unreal being a Jew living outside of Israel and not being able to get into the country. And so immediately after COVID, we didn't sign the kids up for summer camp, and we said we're going to try a summer in Israel. We spent 3 summers, and then after October 7th, we said that really there was no place for us but here.
Similarly, of course, it is a real honor for the people from Nefesh B'Nefesh, as well as the Jewish Agency and KKL, JNF, who have been devoting their lives to this process. Here's what they had to say as they were actually on the flight and adopted some of the children to keep them calm on the plane.
It's the first charter flight since October 7th, and I think it tells a lot about the story of the Jewish people. Our story is not of fear but of faith, not despair but destiny. And to see hundreds of individuals, thousands of individuals investing their lives in the future of the Israel people is really testament to Am Yisrael Chai, that we're a strong nation, we're a proud nation.
People are not running away from anything, they're running to something. They're running to Israel, they're going to contribute right away, right when they hit the ground. You see them here, doctors, lawyers, engineers, students, lone soldiers, everyone's here to contribute to Israel. I'm not surprised whatsoever. When there's trouble at home, people come home.
So to wrap it up, the plane has been deboarded. Everybody is now going into the air.
Welcome back to our coverage. This morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu set to meet with the Security Cabinet to discuss next steps in Gaza. But before he
This was last week. It's a review of the past week.
does that, he sat down with Bill Hemmer, and Bill is live in Jerusalem, where he just finished that exclusive interview and can give us a little bit of a taste of what was discussed. Bill?
Dana, hello to you. Good morning back there in New York. We sat down for about 25 minutes and we covered the range of topics that have been the news and the headlines over the past almost 2 years, including allegations about starvation and genocide. And most importantly, for this Israeli government and the Israeli military, what are they going to do next? Dana, they have reached a critical point in this war. They right now control 75% of the Gaza Strip. It's a 26-mile path there, okay? 25%, a quarter of Gaza has yet to be conquered. This is the critical decision that Benjamin Netanyahu is now weighing. In our interview just moments ago, he gave us a strong indication at the moment as to where he is leading. Watch here. After this interview, you will go immediately into a meeting with your security cabinet. Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel. That's what we want to do. We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas. And you were in the Gaza Strip today. You met Palestinians who are fighting Hamas, because finally they see that they have a future. They can rid themselves of this awful tyranny that not only holds our hostages, but holds 2 million Palestinians in Gaza hostage. That's got to end.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip, as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas, though.
Ma'aleh Adumim rises out of the desert hills east of Jerusalem like a towering fortress. Already one of the largest Jewish settlements in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, now on course to get even bigger. The mayor of Ma'aleh Adumim, Guy Yefrak, says expanding the settlement towards Jerusalem is strategic. I hope one day there will be an arrangement, he says, that Ma'aleh Adumim will be a part of Jerusalem and the state of Israel. The Israeli cabinet minister and settler leader pushing the expansion, Bezalel Smotrich, is on the record saying it will bury the idea of a Palestinian state.
So many people living here.
And many Palestinians fear he's right.
Nobody care about us. Nobody asking about us.
Anas Samir and his staff are packing up his store. He's one of several Palestinian shopkeepers in the town of Al-Izariya, adjacent to the E1 area, given notice that Israel plans to enforce old demolition orders. Part of the town expected to lose a slice to new roads serving the expansion.
Asking for help from anybody who can stop this building and this road.
The E1 plan has been on the books for decades, but the international community has repeatedly convinced Israel to shelve it, until now, when there's a much more favorable U.S. president in the White House.
Aruf al-Rafai says the Smotrich plan will cause huge disruption to Palestinians already pinned down by Israeli checkpoints, army incursions, and private roads for settlers.
If he succeeds to make this area for Ma'aleh Adumim, he will surround all Jerusalem.
Cutting off the West Bank, he says, from occupied East Jerusalem, which Palestinians hope will one day be the capital of a Palestinian state. The mayor of Ma'aleh Adumim insists the E1 expansion won't stop Palestinians traveling from the north of the West Bank to the south. Special roads will allow them to go around it. Israel calls them fabric of life roads. The Palestinians call them segregation roads. Margaret Evans, CBC News, in the occupied West Bank.
You really did not have to wait for the last 4 words. You already, if your ear is used to this stuff, you knew she's biased against Israel. But when she figured in the occupied West Bank, as opposed to in liberated Judea, the occupied West Bank. So she's got a chip on her shoulder. We could tell.
مشروع ايوان يبلش من هاي النقطة امتدادا إلى المنطقة الجنوبية الشمالية الشرقية للعزرية وبلدة الزعيم. مشروع ايوان يستهدف أكثر من 22 تجمع بدوي لعرب الجاهلين في هاي المنطقة. مشروع ايوان يستهدف ربط مستوطنة معالي أدوميم والكتل الاستيطانية في السفوح الشرقية لمدينة القدس بمدينة القدس بشكل فعلي. مشروع ايوان يستهدف إلى فصل شمال الضفة الغربية عن جنوبها. يعني إذا حكينا على مشروع ايوان هو دق النعش الأخير في حلم إقامة الدولة الفلسطينية متواصلة الأطراف. لا نعلم ما الذي ينتظر هذه العائلات وهذه التجمعات في اليوم الثاني لتنفيذ هذا المخطط، في اليوم الثاني لفتح هذه الشوارع، في اليوم الثاني للبدء في تنفيذ المخطط. المصير مجهول للعائلات في ظل خنوع وخضوع عربي، في ظل صمت دولي. الجميع يجهل ما الذي يحدث، لكن الأهالي هنا في التجمعات في جبل بابا والتجمعات البدوية متمسكون حتى الرمق الأخير بالبقاء في بيوتهم، بالبقاء في أراضيهم، بالبقاء في تجمعاتهم. قطاع غزة حكومة المستوطنين المتطرفة سموتريش بن كفير نتنياهو بدأت في تنفيذ هذا المخطط في أراضي الضفة الغربية وفي مدينة القدس بالذات. نأمل من المجتمع الدولي الوقوف عند مسؤولياته لكبح جماح حكومة المستوطنين ووقف تنفيذ هذا المخطط.
أطفالي لأن الإنسان البدوي كما تعلم لا يستطيع العيش داخل مدينة أو داخل قرية بحكم وجود الثروة الحيوانية التي يمتلكها. أصبح المستقبل مجهول. يهدم كنا نرجع نبني البيوت من جديد، طبعا بدعم كان من الاتحاد الأوروبي. اليوم لا نعلم ما هو القادم غدا كما ذكرت لك، ولكن سنقاوم كل القرارات بما نستطيع لا يوجد بديل، لا يوجد لنا بديل للخروج من هذه الأرض.
Good evening. Tonight, we're following significant developments in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich has announced plans to advance construction of over 3,000 new housing units in the controversial E1 settlement project, located between Jerusalem and the Ma'aleh Adumim settlement. This move, which has been on hold for decades due to international opposition, is seen by critics as a deliberate attempt to bury the idea of a Palestinian state. Building in the E1 area would effectively sever the West Bank from occupied East Jerusalem, a critical geographical barrier to the establishment of a contiguous Palestinian state. Minister Smotrich stated that this expansion would thwart the notion of a Palestinian state, asserting, "There will be no state to recognize." He described the initiative as Zionism at its best, emphasizing building and strengthening Israeli sovereignty in the region. This announcement comes amidst declarations from several countries expressing their intent to recognize a Palestinian state in the coming months, a move Israel has denounced. International reaction has been swift. A U.S. State Department spokesperson emphasized the importance of a stable West Bank for Israeli security and regional peace, while the European Commission reiterated its rejection of any territorial changes outside of a political agreement. Israeli settlement activity is considered illegal under international law and remains a core point of contention. Palestinian officials have condemned the plan as an extension of crimes of genocide, displacement, and annexation. Israeli anti-settlement groups like Peace Now argue that the current government is accelerating the annexation of the West Bank, undermining any possibility of a two-state solution and perpetuating conflict. The situation remains tense as these developments unfold. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, News.
Israel has given final approval to build thousands of new homes in the occupied West Bank. Critics say the long-delayed settlement project will bury the chances of a Palestinian state. NPR's Jackie Northam reports from Tel Aviv.
The so-called E1 settlement project has been on the drawing board for more than 2 decades, but pressure from the U.S. and other nations prevented it from becoming a reality, until now. The controversial development, which involves more than 3,400 housing units, will be built on a tract of land east of Jerusalem, effectively slicing the West Bank in two. The Palestinian Authority called the development illegal and said it would destroy the chance of a two-state solution. Israel's ultra-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who approved the plans, said the E1 settlements will erase any notion of a Palestinian state. The number of settlements has quickly grown over the past few years, despite international condemnation. Jackie Northam, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
A little more analysis on this. I want to bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst Jack Keenan. General, thank you for your time. I want to ask you specifically in a moment here. Jerry Baker will join us, Martha McCallum, and others. General, from what you hear, from what you remember about urban warfare in Gaza, how deadly, how bloody could this be?
Well, I don't think it's going to be anything different than what we haven't seen in the campaign to this date. The reality is what we're facing here is Prime Minister Netanyahu and his negotiating team, with ours assisting them, try to work a deal with Hamas to get those hostages out, and they made a number of concessions, and Hamas kept rejecting. So where the Prime Minister is, and it remains to be seen where the cabinet comes out on this, I mean, he's at a point of frustration, and he wants to get those hostages freed, and he believes the best way to get them freed is to put more pressure on Hamas militarily. And that has been what the campaign has been all about. I think we're making too much about we're going to fully occupy all of Gaza. Even if that takes place, it would only be temporary, and he said that himself. I mean, the alternative would be leave Gaza, leave the Hamas in control, leave them armed, and then move all the IDF forces out of Gaza completely, and hopefully be able to get the hostages out as a part of that. The Prime Minister, and I would suspect much of his cabinet, does not agree with that, because to leave them in control and to leave them under arms invites another attack on Israel. And they have suffered through an unprovoked, significant, barbaric attack which led to this entire war. So that's the dividing point here. And the prime minister believes, one, he wants to make certain that they're no longer in control. Two, that they disarm. Number three, that the hostages are indeed released. And number four, someone else is governing Gaza. And then there's a recovery effort. And let's face it, if Hamas stays in control, those who would say just make a deal, get the hostages out, leave Hamas in control and leave them under arms, who is going to give Hamas money to recover Gaza? Certainly the Arabs wouldn't do that. They're throwing it down the drain. They know that. You've got to get a new governing body in there to be able to recover Gaza. We knew it would come down to this at the very beginning, Bill. The reason why Hamas took the hostages, even on a scale of 250, was one, for their own survival, pause in the war so they could recover and rebuild. We've already seen the evidence of that, almost a year and a half plus. And two, at the end of the day, keep enough hostages to guarantee their own survival. That is where we are at. And we knew this would be a crunch point. And yes, certainly the hostages are at risk going forward, just as they have been at risk during the last 18 months plus. That's the reality of what's facing here. And don't pin the rose on Israel for that. Pin the rose on Hamas for that. These are the barbarians that have taken hostages on a scale we have never seen before. So that's kind of where we're at here. We'll see what the cabinet says, and are they unified on this? Certainly there are disagreements about how to approach this. You've probably seen that. That exists in our government as well. I believe that's healthy. This is a democracy, and the Prime Minister emphasized that more than once. But I believe it's likely this campaign will go forward to put more pressure on Hamas to eventually remove them as a governing body and to best attempt possible to disarm them and get the hostages out with that additional pressure. I think that's where we are.
General Aquino, if I go back to your initial point about not making too much of the Prime Minister saying that they will take full control of Gaza, here was Bill's follow-up to that statement and his clarification of it. Listen.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip?
Well,
right now.
Israeli politician Benny Gantz said over the weekend one of the biggest mistakes the Israeli government made was evacuating settlements that were part of Gush Katif in the Gaza Strip in 2005. The comments strike a deep chord for former residents of Gush Katif. As they tell ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian, 19 years after it happened, they wish the Israeli government had listened to them back then.
It's the piece in me that was left in Gaza in 2005.
On the border of Israel and Egypt, in a small community called Shlomit, sits a beautiful home surrounded by tranquility and family and the echoes of a life once lived just 10 kilometers away, inside the Gaza Strip, where Yedidia Harush once called home.
This was my house before we built it. This is Rafah.
These are his childhood memories. Memories that stayed trapped in a place that no longer has a lifeline for Israelis.
It's crazy.
Harush managed to capture all of these moments before his family and thousands of other Israelis were forced out of what was known as Gush Katif by the Israeli government. The controversial decision was a government attempt at making peace with the Palestinians as terror attacks in the Strip continued to grow.
When I left Gaza, I was a 17-year-old, heartbroken. We thought we're going to close our eyes and the issue is going to be solved. Then I said, if the disengagement plan happens, we are the wall of Beersheba and Ashkelon and Ashdod, and if we run away from the terror will chase us. This was accurate.
2 years after the disengagement, Hamas took full control of the Gaza Strip. The sliver of peace Israelis once called home was now part of the terror group's territory.
Gush Katif was the finger in the dab of terrorism, and once you take out Gush Katif, we'll get waves of terrorism, not only from the Gaza, but from the entire world.
Former residents have worked hard to keep their history alive. Located at the Gush Katif Heritage Center in Itzan, you'll find evidence of Jewish life that was in Gaza thousands of years ago, to the moments they preserved before they were forced out.
We look at this as an integral part of our story as the Jewish people. It has to be told, not to be forgotten, because this place, Gush Katif, was like a bunch of sand dunes, and all the dreams that were, being able to be accomplished were accomplished there.
Dozens of people who once grew up in the Gaza Strip went back for the very first time since the disengagement after October 7th, but this time as soldiers.
I'm an officer in the intelligence brigade in Israel, so our brigade was also fighting in Gush Katif. So we were fighting around Khan Younis, and I felt very anxious when our troops came into the places where our former communities were.
Haroush also returned back to Gaza as a soldier, as his childhood memories transformed into adult ones.
To stand on the same land, to see the synagogue that was left, to see the basketball gym that I played in, was a very complicated feeling. On one hand, I was very excited, was very emotional. But on the other hand, I was like, we told you we'll have to come here.
If you asked former Gush Katif residents if they would live in Gaza again one day, you'll get mixed responses. For Haroush, he's decided to focus his energy on developing his small community the same way his parents did in Gaza.
We're one nation, we're committed to each other, and we're in one boat. It doesn't matter what one does, we have to cover for each other. When I came here, I realized why people love it here so much. It reminded me the same spirit that we had in Gaza, in Gush Katif. I was like, wow, we're starting something out of scratch.
Members of a gang from a suburb south of Paris will go.
This is going to be about 4 parts. A few years ago, a Jew was murdered in Paris. Terrible story. So we start a few years ago, and we bring the story through 5 short clips up to today.
On trial today for the murder of a young Jewish man that shocked France. Gang leader Youssef Fofana and 26 others face various charges relating to murder, kidnap and attempted extortion of a ransom. France 24's Philippe Crowther is at the court. Philippe, this is a shocking case with allegations of racism. Tell us more.
Yes, one man is at the heart of this court process that starts today, this court case. His name is Youssef Fofana, as you said. He's a 28-year-old Parisian of Ivorian origin. He is the supposed leader of a gang of 27 people who kidnapped, tortured and killed a 23-year-old Jew in the southern suburbs of Paris over 3 years ago. Now, 23-year-old Ilan Halimi was found tortured, burnt and handcuffed to a tree on the 13th of February 2006, just outside a train station in the southern suburbs of Paris. Now, as I said, Youssef Fofana is the main man in this process. He's the main accused. Now, he faces charges of premeditated murder, of demanding ransom and acts of torture. He's the only one who faces life imprisonment today.
Philip, what's the reaction been from the victim's family? There's a decision here that might outrage them to hold this trial behind closed doors.
Yes, that's something we can't confirm to 100% yet. It looks like this will be a court case that will be held in camera behind closed doors. That's because 2 of the accused of the total of 27, 2 of them were minors at the time of this crime, and only if they both agree for this case to be held in public will it be held in public. That seems very improbable at the moment. Now, that's a big disappointment to Ruth Halimi, the mother of the killed 23-year-old. She wanted this case to be held in public. Because, of course, it's captured the imagination of the French public, and it has been headline news again 3 years after the incident. Now, there's also the very complicated subject of anti-Semitism. She accuses Youssef Fofana and his gang of acting upon anti-Semitism. It's a very complicated subject here in France, and that's the reason why she wants this case to be public. Her lawyers want this as well. Now, this is a mammoth court case. It will last for 10 weeks, and it looks like it will be held behind closed doors for the total of these 10 weeks. Now, altogether, there are 27 accused, 10 young women and 17 young men. It's a case that horrified France over 3 years ago. There will be 162 witnesses in total and 50 experts. And as I said, it'll be 10 weeks before we have a clear result to this court case.
Philip Crowther, thank you.
Je me réjouis d'abord que la Cour d'assises de Paris.
I am delighted that this Paris court recognized the anti-Semitic character of the crime, and that it was certainly because he was Jewish that Ilan Halimi was killed and tortured. From now on, nobody will be able to contest this judicial truth.
Désormais, personne ne pourra la contester. Je regrette que la Cour et le jury
I regret that the court and the jury were particularly indulgent towards those who were present and aided Yousef Fofana in this crime.
Many came to pay their respects to Ilan Halimi in his last hour. Ilan Halimi, who had always hoped to live in Israel.
כמו גם צרפתים רבים מלווים אותו בדרכו האחרונה. זה היה סיום טרגי של אירוע שהחל בחטיפתו של אילן והסתיים בהריגתו על ידי כנופיה של צעירים אנטישמיים שלא בחלו בשום אמצעי כדי להשיג את מבוקשם.
The chief rabbi of France, Joseph Citrouk, addressed Ruth, Ilan's mother, with great emotion.
Il y a un an, vous nous donniez des grandes leçons. Je me souviens, j'avais redouté de vous voir. J'avais préparé quelques phrases dans ma tête, en me disant, il faut que je lui dise, je vous ai vu, j'ai pas eu besoin de parler. C'est vous qui m'avez donné de la force.
The French ambassador to Israel spoke of the drama that took the life of Ilan Halimi.
La mort d'un enfant est inconcevable, au-delà du pensable. Elle renverse l'ordre du monde. Elle est une insulte à la terre et au ciel.
The Minister of Absorption put the horrible murder in its proper historical context.
The beginning of the Zionist movement by Theodor Herzl was in Paris in Dreyfus trial, and we are now closing this circle by bringing Ilan Halimi, who was murdered in Paris, to be buried in the state of Israel in Jerusalem.
Ilan's last resting place is on a mountain slope in Jerusalem, not far from a forest which will be named from this day forth after Ilan Halimi, so that he may always be remembered through nature and thus show the triumph of life over death.
Et de témoigner avec la famille d'Ilan que malgré ce crime antisémite ignoble qui a coûté la vie à Ilan, nous voulons aussi témoigner pour la vie et à travers la plantation de cet arbre assurer une descendance symbolique à Ilan assassiné.
Surtout pour que l'État d'Israël soit toujours là. Tant qu'il y aura des arbres, il y aura des hommes.
More than 60 years after Auschwitz, a young man died simply because he was born Jewish. The trees, seen through the eyes of Ilan Halimi, bear witness to the triumph of life.
Qu'il y ait encore aujourd'hui sur les murs de nos villes des croix gammées qui soient inscrites, comme avant-hier sur le portrait de Simone Veil, que tout près d'ici, dans l'Essonne, des arbres plantés à la mémoire de Ilan Halimi aient pu être déracinés. C'est inadmissible. Ce sont des bégaiements de l'histoire que nous ne pouvons pas tolérer.
Je crois que, au-delà
de la douleur, il y a aussi une seconde douleur, qui est le silence parfois coupable dans lequel se déroulent ces actes antisémites, et je crois qu'il faut briser le silence.
Explose et nous effraie, à l'heure dans ce quartier de notre ville lumière.
Today, France is...
The reason that I've been suddenly bringing you this story with those clips, this is what happened the past week.
outraged after vandals chopped down a tree planted in honor of Ilan Halimi, a young French Jew who was brutally murdered in 2006. The olive tree, standing in Épinay-sur-Seine for the past 14 years, was discovered cut down in the night, seemingly with a chainsaw. What was once a symbol of memory and resilience is now just a stump. French President Emmanuel Macron reacted immediately, declaring that this act of hatred is like trying to kill Ilan Halimi a second time. He vowed that the nation will never forget, and that every resource will be used to hunt down those responsible. His words were clear. In the face of anti-Semitism, the Republic will always stand firm. Ilan Halimi's story remains one of the darkest reminders of anti-Semitism in modern France. At just 23 years old, he was kidnapped, tortured for over 3 weeks, and found near railroad tracks, burned and handcuffed. His death shocked the nation and left deep scars in the Jewish community, the largest in Western Europe. French Prime Minister François Bayrou called the destruction of the tree an act fueled by anti-Semitic hatred. The Paris police chief condemned it as ignoble, promising justice. Sadly, this is not the first time tributes to Halimi have been desecrated. But leaders insist that no crime can erase memory, and the fight against hatred will never stop.
Ούτε πουθενά με την Παλαιστίνη!
Are you agree with us? Yes? Palestine will be free from the river to the sea.
Ό,τι ελευθερία η ιστορία έχει μια σωστή πλευρά με την Παλαιστίνη. Ό,τι ελευθερία, ελευθερία, ελευθερία στην Παλαιστίνη. Free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. Μια σωστή πλευρά με την Παλαιστίνη, όση ελευθερία η ιστορία έχει. Μια σωστή πλευρά με την Παλαιστίνη, όση ελευθερία. Το κράτος του Ισραήλ δολοφονεί παιδιά με την Παλαιστίνη, όση ελευθερία. Με την Παλαιστίνη, όση ελευθερία. Όση ελευθερία Sishiro, pute putena.
Six vandals attacked a kosher restaurant in Athens. They screamed anti-Semitic slurs, threatened the diners and the staff, and covered the walls in anti-Semitic graffiti. One staff member tried to leave, and they threatened him by saying, "If you come out, it's over for you." And it didn't stop there. They filled the restaurant with flyers accusing Israel of killing babies. Despite the trauma, King David Burger reopened the very next day, and this time the restaurant was flooded with supporters. But this attack is part of a disturbing pattern that we've been seeing in the area. Just last month, an Israeli tourist was beaten in Athens for speaking Hebrew. For years, Athens has been one of the top destination spots for Israelis. But now, Israel's National Security Council has added Athens to the list of top destinations to avoid traveling to. We're urging Greek authorities to take action so that Jews can once again feel safe in Athens.
In Dybe Est, too, last night, around 100 people gathered in front of the newly opened Israeli restaurant Gela Nancy, not far from the Gendarme Markt in Berlin Mitte. The demonstration was organized by a group calling itself the Jewish-Palestinian Alliance. They accused the restaurant and its operator of serious political and moral misconduct. Hold on.
Thank you for your patience. We'll start right away. Thank you very much.
Several years ago, the mayor of Barcelona broke off relations with Tel Aviv. They were paired cities or twin cities, Tel Aviv and Barcelona. And about a week ago, the mayor of Barcelona decided she wanted to go visit Israel. And Israel announced they're not letting her into the country. So this is her announcement a few years ago that she's breaking off relations with Tel Aviv and Israel, and that's why they don't want her.
Les entitats i ONGs que coneixen directament el territori, que han vist evolucionar a pitjor any rere any la situació que s'està produint. És per això que, com a alcaldessa de la ciutat de Barcelona, avui he signat i enviat una carta dirigida al primer ministre Netanyahu per decretar la suspensió temporal de les relacions de l'alcaldia de Barcelona amb l'estat d'Israel i amb totes les seves institucions, inclòs l'agermanament amb Tel Aviv. Evidentment, aquesta és una decisió complicada, és una decisió difícil.
Israel vetoes the entry into its country of the mayor of Barcelona. He actually wanted to go to Cisjordan to see how the distribution of aid allocated by this city council was going. But to do so he had to first get to Tel Aviv. But as I say, Israel has told him that there was no way of doing that.
Primary school students have been subjected to shocking anti-Semitic slurs while on an excursion to Melbourne Museum. The verbal attack came from Year 10s from a different college, sparking outrage and anger. Stephanie Anderson reports.
Grade 5 students from Mount Scopus Memorial College went on a regular excursion to Melbourne Museum. Then the 10 and 11-year-old kids were subjected to this.
She has no understanding why she was told she was a baby killer and why she was a dirty Jew.
Their anti-Semitic slurs, the school says, came from teenage students from another college who ended up in a shared learning space with their class. Described as deeply concerning, disappointing and intimidating, Mount Scopus says their pupils were targeted on the basis of their visible Jewish identity.
It's a disgrace that our children are victims of such racist bullying.
I was raised in the 1970s and the 1980s very strongly and very firmly to believe never again. Never again.
The school confirmed the students were immediately moved away and continued their trip. But of particular concern was the report of inaction by one of the other school's educators when asked to stop his students from vilifying the grade 5 group. The principal here at Mount Scopus says he's reached out to the principal of the secondary college involved today to raise his concerns, request details into how the incident will be investigated and to offer to work together on an educational response.
It shows that there is a pressing need for education about anti-Semitism.
We're a modern, pluralistic, harmonious society. You know, I mean, our great strength has been our people. I don't believe that is the norm.
Stephanie Anderson, 9 News.
Dutch foreign minister resigns. Israel sanctions blocked. Gaza suffers. Casper Veldkamp has stepped down as Dutch foreign minister after failing to push through stronger sanctions on Israel. He argued the government refused to back meaningful action, even as outrage over Gaza grows. Before leaving, Veldkamp barred Israeli extremists Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir from entering the Netherlands and cancelled export licenses for naval parts tied to Israel's war machine. He warned that F-35 jets supplied with Dutch components were striking civilians in Gaza. His resignation triggered a chain reaction, with fellow ministers quitting too, leaving the Netherlands without leadership as Gaza faces famine and mass civilian deaths. Speak truth loudly. Silence only fuels ongoing genocide.
There's an investigation going on, but we don't have the motives of the suspect right now.
A Jewish man was violently assaulted in front of children at a park in Montreal's Park Extension neighborhood on Friday afternoon, prompting a police investigation.
The information we have right now is at around 2:45 p.m. we received a 911 call concerning a man and another man who was fighting together. So when the police officer arrived, they located the victim, a 32-year-old man who appears to have been beaten by another guy. The suspect then fled the scene before the arrival of the police officers, and for now there's no arrest.
The incident occurred near the corner of L'Épée and Beaumont Avenues. Police say the victim was injured.
He was injured, but non-life-threatening injuries.
A 29-second video filmed by a witness circulating online shows a man on the ground being punched multiple times by another individual. A child is seen clinging to the victim during the assault. The video does not show what led to the incident. After the assault, the attacker is seen picking up items in a grocery bag and tossing what appears to be a kippah, a traditional Jewish head covering, into a splash pad. Hampstead Mayor Jeremy Levi posted the video on social media and called the attack beyond deplorable and an outrage against basic human decency. The Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs also shared the video online, calling for accountability and urging authorities to act. Also speaking out is Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante, who said she was disturbed by Friday's attack. In a post on social media platform X on Saturday morning, the mayor said she was disturbed by the violent and unacceptable attack on a father from the Jewish community. My thoughts are with the victim and his loved ones. The SPVM will shed light on this disturbing event, she added. In Montreal, Adriana Gentile, City News.
In a viral video from suburban Atlanta, Georgia, the father of a young woman who was stabbed to death in 2023 while serving on Israeli patrol of Jerusalem's Old City was harassed with anti-Semitic slurs from his neighbors. Here is a clip of the heated exchange.
So that's okay that she was murdered by a terrorist? Yeah, a terrorist. It's okay? Yes. But that's okay for them to murder her with someone to murder her. Yeah. That's okay for her to be murdered. No. So you called me a. I heard you call me a.
What's wrong with that? You're not kike means. Are you educated enough for
The word that keeps getting buzzed out, I read a news article about it. She called him a kike, K-I-K-E, something like 24 times.
You know what means?
Yes, I am. Are you? Are you educated to know what it means? What does it mean?
Yeah,
what does it mean?
It means a circle, because the Jews didn't want to be associated with a cross.
That's not what it means.
Yes,
it's a derogatory. It's a derogatory term. It is.
Yeah, okay.
It's a derogatory term.
Yeah.
So it's okay that my daughter. It's okay that my daughter was murdered, and it's okay that you can call me a.
A soldier in combat is murdered. Yeah, a soldier in combat.
His daughter was not a soldier. His daughter made aliyah without the parents. It's known as Chayal Boded, or lone soldier, but she wasn't a soldier. She signed up instead with the police. So she was a police officer on patrol, and an Arab, a teenage Arab, from behind stabbed her in the back to death.
Really?
She's a police officer. She was a police officer. So a police officer is attacked over here.
And what about all the Palestinians?
I'm not telling you. I never said it was okay for Palestinians to be killed. Did you ever hear me say that?
Yeah,
About
okay.
60,000.
She goes
look
there.
every day how many people have been killed now.
Did I say that's okay though? Did I ever say that was okay?
Signs there. She has an IDF uniform.
So that means if you wear an IDF uniform and you're a soldier there, you can be murdered. You can be murdered.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay.
She goes there to murder, and you don't even know.
You were
fire.
You were so confused.
Yeah,
you are.
Confused.
Have you ever been to Israel?
No,
have you ever been there? I'm just asking.
Yeah. Never.
Yeah.
An anti-Semitic word spewed at a father whose daughter was killed while serving as a member of Israel's Border Patrol Police. Atlanta News First Alani Latank is live in the Dunwoody neighborhood where it all happened. Alani, has anything been done to the woman accused of doing this?
Not yet, because David Lubin, that father we spoke with, says while her words are hateful, it doesn't rise to the level of crime yet, but he does tell me he is considering calling police for harassment.
A politician with a daughter in the IDF, and you don't even know they kill people all the time.
Cell phone video capturing a heated argument between Dunwoody neighbors over hateful words towards Jews. Neighbor David Lubin is the father of 20-year-old slain Israeli police officer Sergeant Rose Lubin. He recorded the encounter.
Then you're confused. You're confused. No, I'm not confused. I'm not confused. I'm not confused. I'm corrupt Israeli is what you're calling me. And you don't even know me.
How were you feeling in that moment?
I was not shocked. At that moment, I felt like there was a level of me that needed to get this woman on tape so people could hear how much hate was in her and how much hate is in people that are out there.
The tension had been building since last year. This home had put signs supporting Palestinians, some plastered with a derogatory word about Jews. David tells me they have a right to post their signs, but earlier this month, as he posted these stickers on public signs honoring his daughter, he says that's when the neighbor came outside.
And when I heard her say your daughter deserved to die and called me a that's when I walked across the street.
I heard you call me a
What's wrong with that? You're not me and
It's a derogatory term.
I stopped by the neighbor's home. I'm Milani with Atlanta News First. Anna, the woman seen in the video, agreed to a phone call interview. She says at the time of the video, she just wanted to tell David he had been vandalizing public property with his daughter's stickers.
And he starts calling me a Jew hater, a Jew hater. I don't know. He started calling me names. So I called him a.
So you don't hate Jews?
No, I don't hate Jews. He was the one who called me Jew hater, and he made my blood boil.
Anna says she defends using the slur word against Jews.
I don't regret what I said, and I'll say a million times again.
At what point did you feel like, why didn't you just walk away?
Well, there's the final point that happened to me is when she said, "You're confused, you're a Jew." I heard that same hate that happened during the Holocaust towards Jews. I heard it in her voice. I was hearing that sound in my ears, and it triggered something.
Anna tells me that she called David today to again continue saying that he is responsible for his daughter's killing, and that's why David is considering calling police for harassment. Reporting live in Dunwoody, I'm Alani Latang, Atlanta News First.
When hate goes viral, careers can end overnight. Here's the story behind the Buzik-Lubin confrontation. In Dunwoody, Georgia, a video surfaced showing Anna Bozic hurling anti-Semitic slurs at her neighbor, David Lubin. Lubin was honoring his late daughter, Rose, who died serving in the Israeli border police. Anna's husband, Mark Buzik, co-founder and chief scientist at Aliyah Health, took part in the confrontation. The video quickly spread online. Within days, Aliyah Health fired Mark Buzik. The company's CEO called the couple's actions reprehensible and a violation of company values. The dismissal sent a clear message. Hate speech comes with real consequences. Anna Buzik admitted to using slurs and said she had no regrets. Public reaction was swift, with widespread condemnation. David Lubin, a father of 5 and state senate candidates, said he filmed the incident to expose ongoing hostility. This incident highlights how private actions can become public.
Protests in New York, and not your typical anti-Israel protests, but demonstrations outside the Egyptian mission to the United Nations for Egypt's role in the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Security personnel dragged 2 so-called Hamas supporters into the building and reportedly beat them up, according to eyewitnesses. Take a look.
Inside the building. They're bringing the kids in the building. They're bringing the kid in the building. They're beating them with They're beating the kid with the chain. Can you guys bring somebody? Bring somebody. They're beating the kid with the chain. Bring somebody. They're beating the kid with the chain. Bring somebody. They're beating them inside. They're beating the kid and his brother. Yes, please.
So graphic videos there. Still.
You know, nobody ever pays attention to what goes on in Arab countries. And just a little footnote there. That's what happens. It's obviously not going to happen in front of the Israeli consulate. But the Egyptians, there was that thing with that journalist in the Washington Post who went into a Saudi Arabian consulate. Yeah, they're different. No one complains about them. Those countries are on the UN Human Rights Council, but they're so different from what we are.
With me in studio, our I-24 News senior Middle East correspondent Ariel Osran. Ariel, besides this video, anything else that we know about this specific incident at the Egyptian mission to the UN?
Yeah, this is not a singular event. We've seen incidents of Hamas supporters going after Egyptian delegations, mainly embassies, across the world, in Europe, South Africa, also in the East. And this is now, the reason why we're labeling them as Hamas supporters is because this isn't part of the pro-Palestinian movement that you can say also has elements that supports Hamas or that are anti-Semitic. This is a specific Hamas campaign to try and delegitimize Egypt over its conduct in the war in Gaza. This is also what erupted the Egyptian wrath at Hamas that forced them back to the negotiating table and brought Hamas with its tail between his legs to apologize to Egypt. But their supporters around the world are continuing with this, and that's why you see the zero tolerance exhibited by the Egyptian personnel at.
So this...
And with this, we wind it down for today, pretty much. Start this one at 25 seconds. Give her. She's testifying at AC. This is all the past week or two. And we've covered Italy, We've covered Greece and Berlin and France and the foreign minister of the Netherlands and Atlanta and this lady, and we've covered parts of the world, anti-Semitism. And then on the other hand, Israel opened a new embassy in Zambia. Israel is taking steps to, God willing, great last campaign in the war in Gaza, even if it takes a few months. And so, moving forward, moving backwards, important to know what's going on. And Am Yisrael Chai, we've outlasted all of these people. And here we go. Patel would be from India. So she's testifying, someone presumably born in India, to the local city council here in America. Here we go. 2 minutes.
I'm here to speak in support of the City Council introducing a ceasefire resolution, specifically the one United Liberation Front has drafted. I don't have faith that you'll do this. You guys are all horrible human beings, and Jesus probably would have killed you himself. And the thing is, though, it's very clear to me as someone who's been an organizer for the past couple of years that none of you care, because you guys don't care about anything happening in Palestine or any other country where oppression occurs, because you don't care about the oppression occurring here. And I understand that you guys are all horrible people, but the thing is, 2,300 people being evicted in the last year, those are votes. And you guys, those are votes to win here in Bakersfield. And while you guys parade Gandhi around as a Hindu holiday called Chaitra Navratri starts off this week, I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that other people in the global south practice, believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. So regardless of whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die, and for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors, we'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Next speaker, please.
Okay, you caught that. I'm sure that might have thrown you off, so we'll do that 10 seconds again, because you may not have expected that at a local city council meeting.
I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that other people in the global south practice, believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. So regardless of whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die, and for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors, we'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Next speaker, please.
And now.
Next speaker, please.
Lance, followed by Kev, followed by Valeria.
Wow.
Ms. Patel, that was a threat, what you said at the end, and so the officers are going to escort you out and take care of that.
You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors, we'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
And this is what happens when you wait for the microphone. It's going to be said.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, enough of her. Let's see.
I want to begin by thanking Foreign Minister Saar for this kind invitation.
And we conclude with this. Today, we conclude, having seen a lot of anti-Semitism around the world, we conclude with these 4 minutes from the Secretary of State of the United States. It's just so inspiring. And just as we have to be careful and cautious about the bad, be grateful about the good.
And I regret that I cannot be with you all in person. Golda Meir once said, "It took Moses 40 years to find the only place in the Middle East with no oil. But Israel's wealth lay not under the ground, but in its people, the Jewish people, exiles, pilgrims, and dreamers from around the world who made the desert bloom into a high-tech superpower. Israel accomplished this miracle not by abandoning its history and identity, but by embracing them. Sadly, some of Israel's neighbors have failed to appreciate how following Israel's example could have brought prosperity to the region. Instead, they chose war. They decided to impoverish their people in a futile effort to destroy Israel. They succeeded in the former, while failing in the latter. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest bigotry, and given that we are all here today, it is also the world's most futile. Egyptian pharaohs, Roman emperors, Persian shahs, and Middle Eastern despots have sought to destroy the nation of Israel. Adolf Hitler dreamed of a world without Jews, an idea he shares with Hamas. Today, these regimes and empires have crumbled into dust, but Israel stands, and the Jewish people prosper. I pray for the day when the entire world will recognize the futility of anti-Semitism, when leaders will abandon self-destructive hatred and forge a new future in partnership with Israel by building on the Abraham Accords. Under President Trump's leadership, there are signs that the future may be closer than we dared dream. But only if we can overcome the futile, persistent evil of anti-Semitism can we reach that future. Earlier this year, I stood beside Foreign Minister Sa'ar at the Yad Vashem Memorial. I remembered the millions of Jews who were slaughtered and reflected on the meaning of the words, "never again." The importance of those words were brought home to every American last week when Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were murdered in cold blood outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum here in Washington, D.C. Yaron was a Christian born in Germany who came to love the Jewish state. Sarah was from Kansas and loved Yaron. They dreamed of marrying in Jerusalem, and instead, they were cut down in cold blood by a monster who did not care about Yaron's faith or Sarah's background. We should never forget that as he was being arrested after killing 2 innocents who he believed were Jews, the murderer proudly screamed, "Free, free Palestine." Words that now serve as a battle cry for the death of Jews, the destruction of Israel, and the horrors we must never again allow. There can be no compromise with anti-Semitism. There can be no nuanced separation of hatred of Israel and hatred of the Jewish people. Those who call to boycott Israel are calling for the boycott of their Jewish neighbors and classmates. Those who call for violence against Israelis are calling for violence against Jews. Those who call for the destruction of Israel are calling for the destruction of the Jewish people. That is why, as we extend our prayers to Yaron and Sarah's loved ones, we must stand in solidarity with Israel. There can be no coexistence with evil. There can be no nuance to hatred. Under President Trump, the United States will stand with the Jewish people. We have implemented a vigorous new visa policy that will prevent foreign nationals from coming to the United States to foment hatred against our Jewish community. We are holding international organizations and nations accountable for rhetoric against Israel that resurfaces in the manifesto of monsters, like Yaron and Sarah's killer. But we do see an eventual light at the end of this long tunnel of suffering. One can imagine a Middle East in which the Abraham Accords eventually reign. So thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you for being with us today. We've had a lot of material, and I hope you have a wonderful week. A reminder, we will not be meeting on Tuesday or Thursday this week only. We'll be meeting on, God willing, next Sunday, and then the following Tuesday, Thursday, etc. But we will not be meeting this particular Tuesday and Thursday, and emails will go out Tuesday morning and Thursday morning to remind you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.